Hello and welcome back to Up the Villa opposition preview time. I'm joined by Elizabeth from the Fulhamish pod. How you doing?
I'm really well, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, really good, thank you. Looking forward for Villa to be playing a football match again because it feels like it's been a while since Wembley and we all want to forget about it. But on to Fulham. How's your season been as a whole?
Really, really good this season, I would say. Definitely the best season in at least a decade, if not a decade and a half for Fulham. We've been in and around the European conversation for the whole of the season, which has been pretty special. Picked up some real statement results. Obviously, have had our low moments as well. I've heard that only the best teams get knocked out by Palace in the FA Cup. 3-0. That was definitely a low point for us, but the cup run itself was fantastic. So yeah, highs and lows, but definitely a really, really good season. And we're hoping that we can get a Europa Conference League spot and make it something truly, truly memorable.
So what has been like the best moment of your season? Because when you do these opposition ones, you catch fans in different phases and you never really talk about like the best part of it because there's still a long way to go. But what would you say has been your best moment?
It's so difficult because I feel like we've had so many highlights. We've been up and down so much, but part of that has been having such historic results. I would say my highlight was Boxing Day, 2-1 away at the Bridge in the final minute. We haven't won at Stamford Bridge in forever, and Chelsea, obviously local rivals for us. That was really, really special. But we beat Liverpool, we beat Brentford, also our local rivals. We beat Manchester United on penalties in the FA Cup, and those were all also like absolutely incredible moments.
I mean, one man that's sort of giving you those moments is Marco Silva, a fantastic coach, someone that I hold in such a high regard with Thomas Frank and Iraola. And you've kind of been, those three teams in particular have been a bit of the story of the Premier League of being able to challenge and compete at the top end of the Premier League as well. So just talk to me about the job that he's done while he's been at Fulham and how he's sort of made you compete and be in that conversation, because I imagine like next season you're going to want to be able to go into it and go, we want to qualify for Europe, rather than at the minute sort of you probably didn't expect to do that at the start of the season. So just talk to me about the job that he's done.
It's been unbelievable. Definitely the best Fulham manager of my lifetime and memory, to be honest. Before he came in summer 2021, and before that, we were in a yo-yo cycle in and out of the Premier League. And we know so often that yo-yo cycle ends up the wrong way. You end up in a position like Norwich are at the moment, where they're just really not seeing a way out of the Championship. And when he came in, we won the Championship, scoring 100 goals. That was amazing. I thought it can't possibly get better than that. And then we've had 3 years of Premier League stability. And like, to my mind, our recruitment has been good, sure, but it's all down to our manager. His style of play is quite attractive, but he's also quite pragmatic. And it means that he's really easy to love. And he's delivered all these statement results for us over the past few years. I want to keep him for the rest of time. I'm incredibly worried that Tottenham Hotspur are going to come knocking.
Sometimes when I watch him on the touchline, he does have a bit of a presence on the touchline as well. It's sometimes like decisions don't, he really sort of, I wouldn't really want to cross him, because whenever I watch you guys and something happens, I'm like, God, he's like getting stuck in a little bit. So he has got a bit of bite about him, hasn't he?
Yeah, he definitely does. And he's been sent off a few times. Like, there have been a couple of dicey moments, but you can tell that he really feels it. And sometimes we wish he'd keep his head a little bit more and maybe calm down the players. But ultimately, like, if I look at it overall, I wouldn't really have it any other way.
Yeah, I mean, one player that I like, and that's not because of his surname, is Robinson. I think he's so good. I mean, he's, when you watch Fulham, he's the one that's sort of like bombing up and down. And I think as a neutral, you like to see that, you like to see creative and expressive players. Iwobi, I think, has been fantastic. I really rate him. I love how he gets about the pitch. Who would you say has been your best player this season?
Ooh, that is difficult. I mean, Robinson is the headline one in terms of what he offers this team, the energy he offers, the attacking threat from that left back position, and him and Iwobi combining on the left hand side, it's just been amazing. But I'm going to put in a shout as well for Sander Berger, who's one of our defensive midfielders. He's just everywhere, tackling, really, really scrappy, really, really energetic. And a surprise for us, we signed him from Burnley towards the end of the summer transfer window, and I think Fulham fans weren't really sure how it was going to go, but he's been so solid and really can marshal a game when he's in the centre of the park.
And whenever I watch you like that, you know that new stand you've got, is it finished? Yeah. It's finished? Because when I watch it, and I'm like,
meant to be.
Yeah, it never looks full, but I'm like,
no,
what's going on with that?
So it's pretty much, my understanding at least, is that it's pretty much all finished for like normal people that might come. The tickets in that stand are still eye-wateringly expensive, but the hospitality areas in that stand are not completely finished. So there are some seats that they still can't sell. So like it was meant to be finished many years ago. And in theory, it's going to be finished this summer, but I've heard it before.
Yeah, I was just always sort of curious to because on the TV cameras, I think they view it from that side of the ground, so you can't sometimes see it. So I was just really curious. So the Premier League as a whole, it's been a bit random in the sense of like the media will say it's sort of been a bit boring and not the greatest, but from a fan someone that's not in that big six, and there's two teams that are below us, and hearing those sort of like moaning about, the standard and the title race, etc. How have you sort of found it as a whole? I mean, you're in and amongst some of the really good stories, like I mentioned earlier, Brentford, Bournemouth, etc. So from a fan looking at the Premier League in general, how have you found it?
I found it to be a really exciting season, to be honest. I think as obviously I'm not a neutral, but I'm a neutral when it comes to the top of the table, if that makes sense. And I was tired of Manchester City's dominance at the top of the league. I wanted to see something different. And I feel like this season has definitely offered that. In terms of the race for Europe, it's felt so open at points. And to be a part of that every week, it's been exciting to see, when we're dropping points to teams lower down the league, but still being able to remain in that conversation. That has been so exciting. And there has been such a pack. And like Aston Villa and Newcastle and Chelsea are better teams than Fulham and will finish above Fulham this season. But Brighton, Brentford and Bournemouth and Fulham, we're all fighting for that 8th spot, which hopefully will be a Europa Conference League place. And really at this point, it could be anyone's game, I think. My only disappointment, my real disappointment in the league actually has been the relegation race. Obviously, Fulham came up from the Championship in 2022, along with Bournemouth and Nottingham Forest, and all of us have managed to survive and thrive in the Premier League. But I think it's really, really worrying for the league that 2 years in a row, all the promoted teams have been relegated.
Yeah, and I think you're spot on. You look at Brentford, Bournemouth, they're established Premier League teams now, who I don't really see budging at all. Years ago, I mean, even you guys were up, down, and vice versa, and couldn't really sort of dominate and be established for sustained periods. Do you kind of now feel that it is a closed shop? I mean, the 3 that are going to come up, do you feel like they do stand a chance? Because who goes down? We've seen, like you mentioned, like Wolves sacked Gary O'Neill and they've transformed and they've really been nowhere near it. And Everton as well, they've been nowhere near going down. And the gap just seems like it's getting bigger and bigger to me.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's really concerning. And those teams that have been sort of circling the drain almost for a couple of years, your Evertons, Wolves, it seems that they've really turned things around. One that I think is a bit of a concern for relegation is West Ham on their current form. But all it takes is a savvy change of manager, and then they're straight back in the driving seat, and they've got resources to outcompete with those teams. And Scott Parker is a manager who manages Burnley as a manager Fulham fans know well, and he did not do well with Fulham in the Premier League. And I just can't see it going similarly. Equally, Daniel Farke, if Leeds keep him, has not performed well at this league before. So I do think where the three that come up will again be the three favourites for relegation, and will probably all go down, and that will be a damning indictment on the Premier League.
Yeah, and I think the Premier League at the minute has got some top tacticians as well who are just so good, and I think they make a massive difference as well. I think, you know, years ago you'd have teams at the bottom, and then they'd have like Steve Clark, Sam Allardyce, and it's like it's not that level anymore, is it? Those managers can't do it in the Premier League, and I think the coaching in the Premier League, we can talk about the players being the best and etc. And I think the coaches are at such a high level now as well. So you did have a cup run, an FA Cup run to some extent, just like we did, and we both lost to Palace. I actually watched your game, and you started that game really well, and then, you know, I think it was Eze that scored, and then that was the end of that. So how were you feeling with a cup run?
Honestly, for teams like Fulham, the FA Cup and the Carabao Cup have been the huge motivator of our season in some way. Once you realise you've established Premier League safety, I would much rather go on a cup run than have a European push. And in the last 3 years, we've had cup runs that have ended in variously dramatic and devastating ways. But they have been sizable. And this season, the emotion of knocking Manchester United out on penalties, we have such an, Manchester United are a bogey team, which is a dumb thing to say, kind of, but that's how it feels. And that was such an emotional game and such an emotional result. And then you're right, we played really well for like 20 minutes in that Palace game before the wheels came off. And I would love nothing more than to get to Wembley next season. That is like the number one thing I want from next season.
Well, I can tell you it's horrific when you lose. It's terrible when you lose. I mean, I've been in a bad way all weekend because that result hit me so bad. But we move on, right? So you've got Villa at Villa Park. And for me, looking at this game from a Villa point of view, I think this could be like a bit of a cup final for you, because if you beat Villa, you're 3 points behind us and you are right in that mix of some form of Europe. So how are you feeling about coming to Villa Park?
Huge. I think this is our most difficult game left of the season. We do take Man City on at home, last game of the season, but I think this being away, it being at Villa Park, which I've been to Villa Park once and the atmosphere was amazing, and it was like a drizzly day in November. So I think it's going to be a really, really hostile place for us to come. If we manage to get something on Saturday, I think we're getting to the point where we're starting to look almost home and dry in that European race. It's seismic. If we don't manage to get something, I don't think it's over. Like Villa, I think, are a much better team than us. I wouldn't expect to get anything, but it really piles the pressure on those next games.
And what have you made of Villa this season?
I love watching Aston Villa. I would imagine that it's quite stressful to support Villa. Am I right?
At times, yeah. I think because the thing is with like supporting us at the minute, it's brilliant, and the occasions and the Champions League, but there's a lot of pressure to win, you know, because there's something at stake. So sometimes you can't go into a game really enjoying it because there's so much at stake. And going into this game, it's exactly the same. Like, we've pretty much got to win all of our games now to get Champions League football, and pressure comes with that. But at home, we are very good. We've only lost once all season in the Premier League. So, you know, we are good there. But it's just like, it is like pressure football that we are watching.
Yeah, I find Villa, like, sometimes, and this is definitely a good thing, but there's a little bit of chaos behind Emery's tactics. And it's a way that with the high line, it's something I love watching. And I love watching Villa games as a neutral. I watched the game a couple of weeks ago where you guys beat Newcastle 4-1. And you guys were just so impressive that day. And some of my favourite non-Fulham players in the league as well. I know he's had a poorer season, but Ollie Watkins last season was just my absolute favourite player to watch. And so, yeah, it's going to be a really, really difficult game for us on Saturday.
And then finally, then, for you as a Fulham fan, what do you feel like you need going into like next season to be better?
Ooh, There's so there's so many questions. Our squad is in a good place, but it's not in a perfect place. I think that's probably the case of how every single fan feels. The first thing we need is to make sure that Marco Silva is committed for the season and for the long term. That's our number one priority. And if nothing else changes, that needs to change. I would love a new defensive midfielder. Sanderberger and Sasha Lukic are an amazing defensive duo when they're together in that base of midfield. But they're both quite prone to picking up a yellow card, which means there have been quite a few suspensions. Obviously, keeping 2 players fit in that position is a lot harder than keeping 1 player fit. There have been some rumours that our star man, João Palhinha, might be coming back from Bayern Munich to Fulham, which I, for one, would love to see. So, yeah, that defensive midfielder role. And also, I think there needs to be a little refresh up top. Maybe not necessarily a first choice striker to come in, but it would be nice to see someone who could come in maybe as a young second choice striker to challenge Rodrigo Muniz and Raul Jimenez in that position.
Brilliant. It's been great chatting to you and getting your insight on everything Fulham. And I'll tag Fulhamish Pod on all of the titles, description, etc. So you can go and check them out as well. So thank you, Elizabeth.
Thank you so much for having me.